She's out. Effective now. The sun had barely risen over the Los Angeles skyline, but the film set was already alive with movement. Camera cranes hovered above the sleek, glassy architecture of a futuristic city street built just for this sci-fi epic. The crew whispered, ran, and pointed, trying to hide their stress. Today was supposed to be the big emotional scene, the one the director said would make or break the movie. Everyone knew what was at stake, but something felt wrong. Ana de Armas sat quietly near a prop wall, wearing a worn leather costume, her hands folded in her lap. Her eyes stared into the distance, but she wasn't daydreaming. She was waiting for something she had already sensed in her gut. Bad news. Keanu Reeves noticed the silence around her. Even the makeup artists were avoiding her eyes. The warmth usually surrounding Ana was missing. She looked alone. He crossed the set slowly, past cables and crates, and sat beside her without a word. He didn't ask if she was okay. He just offered her a protein bar and a bottle of water. It was the kind of quiet act only he could do without making it awkward. "They're going to ask me to leave," she whispered suddenly. Her voice barely reached his ears. Keanu looked at her, surprised. "Why?" "They think I'm slowing things down. That I'm emotionally inconsistent," she said with air quotes and a bitter smile. "I overheard it yesterday. They say I'm too sensitive to criticism, that I'm not what they expected." Keanu didn't speak. Not yet. He let the words sink. "And Biao?" He looked across the set and spotted two producers standing near the director's tent, talking quickly and glancing over at Ana. He had seen this before. Actors labeled as difficult for not playing the game. Not for being late, not for doing wrong, but simply for being human. "They forget you're not a machine," he said finally. Just then, a production assistant came over, eyes darting nervously. "Ana, can we talk to you? In private?" Ana stood slowly, her hands trembled. Keanu stood too. "I'll come with her," he said. I think it's better if—" "I said," Keanu repeated gently but firmly. "I'll come with her." Inside the director's tent, things were tense. The executive producer was on a video call from New York, his voice echoing through the small speakers. The director avoided eye contact. A senior studio rep cleared his throat. "Ana, we appreciate the work you've done," he began, using that polite tone people used right before they hit you with something cruel. "But after reviewing the footage and considering the direction of the character, we're going to go in a different direction." Ana nodded slowly. She had already cried the night before. There were no tears left. "So I'm fired," she said, calm and quiet. "We'll call it a creative realignment," the studio rep replied. Keanu's jaw tensed. His hands were in his jacket pockets, but his voice came out cold and clear. "She's the heart of the film," he said. "You're making a mistake." The director looked embarrassed. He mumbled something about pressure from above. No one took responsibility. Ana turned to leave, but Keanu didn't move. He stood there, still and heavy with thought. "I won't finish the film without her," he said. Everyone froze. "Keanu," the executive producer's voice crackled over the speaker. "Let's not be emotional. You're asking the audience to feel something real," he interrupted. "But you fire the one person on set actually bringing real emotion. I'm not doing it." The studio rep's face went pale. "You're under contract." "Sue me," Keanu replied. "I'll donate everything to a children's hospital." And with that, he walked out. Ana caught up to him outside, her face flushed with confusion and disbelief. "You didn't have to do that." "You're right," he said. "But I did." The whispers began to spread across the set like fire. Crew members who had been avoiding Ana's eyes now looked at her with quiet respect. Some clapped softly, some nodded. Not out of pity, but because they saw something powerful. Keanu Reeves, the quiet man who rarely made noise, had just shaken the walls of Hollywood with a single step, and the studio They were already panicking behind closed doors. He really walked out. Back at the studio headquarters, the mood was anything but calm. Phones rang non-stop, emails flew like sparks, and every major executive had been pulled into an emergency video call. The question bounced from one office to another like a pinball. Did he really walk out? Yes, the assistant confirmed, nearly breathless. He left the lot with Anna. They're both gone. He's bluffing, someone said on the call. He's not, another voice replied, lower, more serious. This is Keanu Reeves. He doesn't bluff. He acts. In the chaos, no one noticed the younger intern sitting quietly in the corner of the room. She had been working late nights, just organizing set reports, never speaking. But now she whispered to herself, maybe he's the only one in this place who actually cares. Meanwhile, outside the studio bubble, something strange was happening. The story began to spread. It started with a single tweet from a crew member. Ana de Armas was quietly pushed out today. Keanu saw it happen, and he walked away from the entire film for her, just like that. Within an hour, it was everywhere. Fans were reposting it. Film pages were covering it. Hashtags began to form. Stand with Ana. Respect Keanu. Hollywood has no heart Keanu. And Ana, unaware of the storm they had triggered, sat in a small corner cafe in downtown Los Angeles. No reporters, no fans, just the two of them. Quiet, sipping coffee from paper cups. Ana looked outside the window as the city moved without noticing her. What do we do now? She asked. Keanu didn't rush to answer. He just took a breath and said, we think, we feel, then we move. I don't want to be a victim, she whispered. You're not, he replied. You're a storm, and they don't know what's coming. Meanwhile, back on set, things were falling apart. The director tried filming the next scene without the two stars. It felt cold, lifeless. The stand-ins couldn't deliver the emotion. And the camera operators knew it. We're wasting time, one of the lighting techs muttered. This isn't a film anymore. It's just empty frames. The studio rep tried reaching out to Keanu's agent. No answer. He tried calling Ana's publicist. Voicemail. He even called the director's personal phone. Nothing. Panic turned to fear. By sunset, fans had set up a small candlelight display outside the studio gates. Photos of Keanu and Ana side by side were taped to the wall. Hand-drawn signs read, "She deserved better." Thank you for standing up, Keanu. Real heroes don't wear capes. One young girl, around 10 years old, left a note at the base of a tree. Dear Ana, I want to be strong like you when I grow up. Inside the cafe, Keanu finally pulled out his phone. He read the messages aloud, one by one, each one more emotional than the last. Ana listened quietly, her hand over her heart. I didn't think anyone would care, she said. They care because you made them feel something, he said softly. And they care because they're tired of people being silent. Suddenly, Ana's phone lit up. A message. Not from the studio. Not from the press. It was from a legendary independent director. One who had been quiet for years. It simply said, I saw what happened. Let's meet. I have a script for both of you. Ana looked at Keanu. He smiled. See? But what if they blacklist us? She asked. What if we can't go back? Keanu stood up and threw their trash away. He turned back to her and said, without hesitation, Then we build something better. The sun was setting, golden light reflecting in the glass of the cafe windows. They walked out together, not as fallen actors, but as people who had chosen truth over fame. And behind them, Hollywood was starting to crack. They won't survive this. The next morning, the studio's front gate looked like the entrance to a protest zone. Camera vans, online reporters, and fans gathered under the early light. Security guards tried to keep order, but it was no use. People were angry. People were awake. One banner waved high over the crowd. Justice for Ana, Respect for Keanu. In a dark boardroom inside the studio building, 5 executives sat silently around a long glass table. The mood was tense. No one touched their coffee. The CEO finally spoke. "This is spiraling. We underestimated the response." A marketing director tapped a chart on the screen. "Online support for Anna has skyrocketed. Keanu's name is trending in 28 countries. Even our own crew is leaking footage. We've already lost 2 sponsorship deals in the last 24 hours. The legal team shifted uncomfortably. One of them mumbled, "If this becomes a contract breach issue, we might be looking at more than a reputation hit." Someone else whispered, "They won't survive this." Meanwhile, Keanu and Anna were sitting in a quiet office above a small indie theater. Across from them sat the director who had reached out, a woman in her 60s with silver hair and wise eyes. Her name was Lydia Kane, a name once legendary before she left the industry due to corruption and exhaustion. "I watched the clip from set," Lydia said. "I saw the pain in your face, Anna, and Keanu, the silence in your eyes. I knew you two were telling a bigger story than the one they were filming." She slid a script across the desk. "It's called Ashes and Bloom. It's about 2 people who lose everything, but find truth in the ruins." Keanu read the first page and stopped. It already felt real. Anna opened it, scanned a few lines, and covered her mouth. She nodded slowly. "This is raw, painful, but beautiful." "It's yours if you want it," Lydia said. "But there's no studio backing, no red carpets, no big budgets, just truth." Keanu looked at Anna. She looked back at him. No words needed. They both said, "We're in." That afternoon, while the studio tried to erase the damage with polished press releases and fake smiles, Keanu and Anna released a quiet video. Just the 2 of them, sitting side by side on a park bench. No music, no special lighting. Anna spoke first. "I wasn't going to say anything. I thought if I stayed quiet, it would all go away. But it didn't," Keanu added. "We're not angry. We're not here to shame anyone. But we believe in honesty and in kindness. And we couldn't stay silent when someone was being treated unfairly." Anna looked into the camera, calm but firm. "I was let go, not for breaking rules, not for being unprofessional, but for being too emotional, too human," Keanu said. "So I walked away." Then Anna smiled. "And now we're walking toward something better." They announced Ashes and Bloom. They said filming would begin in a month. They invited fans to be part of the journey. And then something unexpected happened. The video exploded. Millions watched. Millions shared. Actors, writers, directors, some big names, some small, began reposting the video with their own stories of pain, silence, and being pushed aside for not fitting into a mold. The movement grew. A list celebrities reposted the #HumanBeforeActor film students painted murals of Anna's tearful face with the words, "I feel, I act." A senior actress shared her own message. "If Hollywood punished everyone who felt too deeply, we'd never have art." And the studio, they tried to spin the narrative, claiming they had parted mutually. They even offered to rehire Anna quietly. But it was too late. Anna's agent replied with a single sentence, "She doesn't belong in your silence anymore." Keanu didn't say anything publicly after that. He didn't need to. He had spoken with his actions. And now, people were listening. Not just a film anymore. The first day of filming Ashes and Bloom didn't start with loud claps or shouted directions. Instead, it began in silence. Keanu, Anna, Lydia Kane, and a small crew stood together in the middle of an abandoned warehouse. They had rented as their set. The windows were cracked, the walls were raw. But something about it felt real, honest. Anna stood in front of the camera, no makeup, no costume. She wore her own clothes, a simple gray sweater, a pair of jeans, and eyes full of emotion. Lydia whispered from behind the lens, "Just feel. Don't act." Anna took a deep breath. The scene began. No one said, action. No one needed to. The first shot was her walking alone through the broken warehouse, whispering lines of pain and memory, her voice shaking. Keanu watched from the corner, not as a co-star, but as someone witnessing something sacred. After the scene, the crew didn't cheer. They didn't need to. The silence was louder than applause. The sound operator wiped a tear. The assistant camera operator turned away, overwhelmed. Lydia smiled gently. That's what truth looks like. Later that evening, they uploaded a raw teaser to social media. The title appeared in plain white font over a dark background. Ashes and Bloom. A film about what remains when everything breaks within hours. The video had over 10 million views. But this wasn't just about a film anymore. It was becoming a movement. Film students from around the world began submitting short scenes of their own stories. Moments where they had been told they were too much, too sensitive, not enough. Actors shared clips of failed auditions where they had poured their hearts out, only to be told to smile more, speak less, or look a certain way. Keanu and Anna watched the videos at night, together, on a laptop in the small trailer they shared between takes. They didn't speak much. They didn't need to. The work was speaking for them now. But not everyone was celebrating. In the background, the original studio was struggling. Sponsors were pulling out. Investors were asking questions. Rumors spread that the film Keanu had left behind was now on indefinite hold. The lead actress brought in to replace Anna had quietly exited the project, citing moral conflict. A leaked internal email surfaced, exposing how the executives had planned to frame Anna's departure as emotional instability. The backlash was swift and brutal. Journalists dug deeper, uncovering similar stories about how the studio had treated other women, how silence had always been their tool. One reporter wrote, "The real drama isn't in the movie theaters. It's behind the scenes, where Keanu Reeves and Ana de Armas chose integrity over image. And Hollywood is finally being forced to watch." Back on the set of Ashes and Bloom, the atmosphere was peaceful, but intense. The scenes were painful to film. Both Anna and Keanu had to tap into real memories, real fears. There were days when filming stopped mid-scene because one of them broke down, but no one called it weakness. They called it bravery. In one powerful moment, Keanu stood in front of a cracked mirror during a scene. The line was simple: "If they can't see my heart, then they don't deserve my silence." After the take, Lydia whispered to the crew, "We're not making a movie. We're making truth." The internet lit up again. People began quoting the line, tattooing it, printing it on t-shirts. A quiet revolution was blooming from the ashes of one painful firing. Anna's face appeared on magazine covers again, but this time it wasn't for her looks or a fashion brand. It was for her courage. One headline read, "She was too human for Hollywood, so she built a new world instead." Keanu stayed in the background, just as he liked it, but whenever he was asked why he left a multi-million-dollar film behind, his answer was always the same: because silence is expensive, and she was worth more. The letter that changed everything. The sun had just started to rise when Anna found the envelope on the trailer doorstep. No return name. Just her own, written in soft black ink across the front. At first, she thought it was fan mail. The crew had been receiving hundreds of letters every week. Messages of support, drawings from children, stories from women around the world who felt seen again because of her. But this envelope was different. She opened it slowly, unsure why. Her hands were trembling. Inside was a single page. The handwriting was clean, a little shaky. "Dear Anna, I was one of the people in the room when they decided you were too emotional to continue. I didn't speak up. I wanted to, but I didn't. I was afraid for my job, afraid of being labeled difficult myself. But I watched what happened after, and I saw what silence cost you, what it cost all of us. I'm sorry. I quit yesterday. I'm done staying quiet." Thank you for being braver than me. You woke something up in people like me. Please don't stop. Sincerely, a coward who's trying not to be one anymore. Anna read it twice, then a third time. By the fourth, her hands were shaking for a different reason. This wasn't just about her anymore. This was something bigger, something moving quietly through every locked office, every dark meeting room, every person who had ever been told to sit down and smile. Keanu stepped out of the trailer, stretching his arms, and noticed the letter in her hands. "Fan mail?" he asked softly. "Maybe," she replied, eyes still on the page. "Or maybe someone finally waking up." Keanu read it silently. Then he folded it and handed it back. "Frame it. You'll need it later." When people forget how this started, on set, that day's scene was the most difficult yet. Anna's character was supposed to confront a man who had erased her identity, told her who to be, and threatened to destroy her if she resisted. Anna didn't just act the lines, she lived them. When she spoke, her voice cracked with truth. "You told me I was too much, too weak, too honest. And now? Now I know you were just afraid of someone who couldn't be controlled." Everyone on set went silent. Even the boom operator held his breath. When Lydia said cut, no one moved for several seconds. Then slowly, the crew clapped. Not because it was a perfect take, but because it was real. Lydia wiped a tear from her cheek. "We don't need another take. That was it." Later that evening, Lydia invited the entire crew to a small local theater for a surprise. When they arrived, a screen lit up with black and white footage. It was a montage of messages, video clips from people all over the world. Actors, students, mothers, teachers, each one sharing how Anna and Keanu's choice had inspired them. A young actress with scars on her face whispered into the camera, "I stopped auditioning because they told me I'd never get work. But after what Anna did, I'm going back." A middle-aged father said, "My daughter showed me the video. Now I talk to her differently, with more respect, because now I see what silence costs." The screen went dark. And then, in white letters, 3 words appeared. "We hear you." The room was silent. Anna sat in the back, unable to move. She didn't even realize she was crying until Keanu gently handed her a tissue and said nothing, just smiled. On their way out, someone handed Lydia a folded piece of paper. She opened it and read aloud, "We would like to premiere your film at Sundance." Gasps filled the theater. Keanu blinked. Anna covered her mouth. Sundance, a dream that had once felt too far, was now standing right in front of them. "This isn't just a film anymore," Lydia whispered. "No," Anna said. "It's," a voice, and it was growing louder by the day. They gave her a stage. She gave them silence. Snow blanketed the edges of the Sundance Film Festival, where a crowd gathered outside the main screening hall, waiting for the premiere of Ashes and Bloom. The line stretched for blocks. Cameras flashed, fans held handwritten signs, and murmurs filled the air. But inside the theater, it was quiet. Keanu sat beside Anna in the front row. Lydia Kane, calm but alert, sat on the other side. The 3 of them wore no designer clothes, no flashy jewelry. They had promised themselves this night wouldn't be about glamour. It would be about truth. A hush fell across the room as the opening scene lit up the screen. Anna's character stood in a dim hallway, staring at herself in a cracked mirror. She whispered, "They wanted me quiet. They thought if I broke, they could sweep me away. But I wasn't broken. I was becoming." For the next 92 minutes, not a soul moved. The film was raw. It held no special effects, no bright colors, no soaring music. Only silence, pain, breath, and honesty. It showed grief, love, fear, strength. The story of losing everything and finding something deeper, something pure. When the screen faded to black, the credits rolled without music. For a moment, no one clapped. Then someone stood, then another, and then the entire audience rose as one, an overwhelming, shaking, roaring ovation. Keanu didn't smile. He just closed his eyes and breathed. Anna, stunned, looked down at her lap. She didn't know how to react. The world had once told her she was too emotional, too weak. Now, they were standing for her. A voice from the back shouted, "Thank you!" Another cried, "You gave us ourselves back." Outside the theater, reporters swarmed. Everyone wanted a comment. Anna stepped onto the small outdoor stage that had been prepared for the crew. Microphones lined the front. Flashing lights filled the air. The crowd held its breath. Anna took a deep breath. Then she did something no one expected. She said nothing. She stood still. She looked at every camera, every face, every hand raised, and she didn't say a word. After a full minute of silence, she stepped back. Keanu followed her, then Lydia. The silence hit harder than any speech ever could. It was the same silence that once hurt her. Now, it was her power. The next morning, every headline was about that moment. Ana de Armas stood in silence. The world finally listened. Keanu walked away from Hollywood and brought truth back with him. Ashes and Bloom isn't just a film, it's a revolution. The studio that had fired Anna released a public statement that felt cold and calculated. They claimed creative differences and tried to regain public favor. But it didn't matter anymore. People weren't listening to them. They were listening to her. A month later, Ashes and Bloom won Best Independent Film, then Best Screenplay. Anna was named Best Actress. Keanu was awarded for humanitarian influence in cinema. They donated every prize, every dollar earned, to artists who had once been told they didn't belong. Anna started a foundation to support women in film, especially those who had been pushed aside, labeled too sensitive or not marketable. Keanu quietly funded therapy programs for young actors, offering free mental health care in an industry that often ignored its wounds. When asked in an interview why he walked away that day, Keanu smiled gently and said, "Because I didn't want to be part of something that silences the very people it claims to uplift. Walking away wasn't the risk. Staying would have been." Anna was asked if she had forgiven the studio. She paused, then nodded slowly. "I've forgiven the silence," she said, "but I haven't forgotten it." Years later, the letter Anna received, the one from the studio worker who said they were trying not to be a coward, was framed in her office. Below it, she placed a note of her own. "This is how change begins." One voice, one stand, one silence that meant everything. And in that silence, a new voice was born. Not just for her, but for all who had ever been told to sit down, be quiet, and stop feeling too much. They didn't stop, and the world finally noticed.